Results with News Now's live coverage on ABC7. It all starts at 8 with Clint Rigel manning Election Central from the Pacific News Center. Janella Carrera live with the vote count from the UOG Fieldhouse. Blake Watson gives you the Republican reaction, and Roselle Romanes follows the action as it happens with the Democrats. Better yet, get up-to-the-minute updates all night long from PacificNewsCenter.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter too. News reinvented for real time. News Now.
PNC's Vote 2014, our all-night coverage of the 2014 general election. I'll be in studio all night filling in with the very latest, and we'll be checking in with you every now and then. Right now, we're going to head over to the University of Guam Fieldhouse, where Janella Carrera is standing by at Election Central, where all the ballots are being tabulated. Let's check in with Janella now. Janella.
Hafere Guam, I'm Janella Carrera. I am reporting live right here from the UOG Fieldhouse. As you can see, there are still people in line voting. Polls should have closed by now. It's already 8 o'clock. But if you are in line, if you get inside before 8 o'clock, you're good to go. You can still vote. Again, we're here at the UOG Fieldhouse, and as soon as all the votes are cast, they'll begin counting the ballots. We'll be here all night tonight, counting those and getting those results for you and reporting it live here from the UOG Fieldhouse. Make sure you stay tuned to us. So far, everything seems to be going smoothly here at UOG. No problems to report whatsoever. Again, keep it locked right here to PNC's News Now. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram for the latest updates, as well as our Facebook page and our website at PacificNewsCenter.com. Now back to you, Clint.
All right, and thank you very much, Janella. Again, PNC's Janella Carrera will be at the University of Guam Fieldhouse all night tonight until the very last of our votes are tallied and all the ballots are counted. So be sure to stay tuned and watch us right here. We'll be back with more later on in this evening. Our all-night coverage of the election, and we'll be with you all night checking in with various places. Right now, I'll go live to Janella Carrera, who is standing by at the University of Guam Fieldhouse. Janella will be at the Fieldhouse all night. Janella, can you tell us what's going on over there?
Hafere and good evening, Clint. I'm Janella Carrera. I'm over here at the UOG Fieldhouse, where it looks like everybody's just about done voting. Precinct officials are now closing down their polls. We tried to pull an official earlier, however, they are at crunch mode right now, so it's extremely busy here. They're doing everything they can to get everything finished up so that they can start counting all the votes in. I spoke with one official earlier. She told me that what happens is whichever poll is the soonest to close down their site, that poll will be the first one to be counted in the tabulators here over at UOG. Right now, it doesn't look like any GEC officials have really made their way here yet. I think it's still too early. It's only about 8:35. So I'm guessing after the 9 o'clock hour, that's when we'll see more people coming in, filling in and bringing in the ballot boxes. We also did get a report that in one of the precincts, some polling people were being kicked out. However, we will still continue to look into that, and again, just keep it locked here. We'll keep you updated on the latest developments here at UOG. Thanks, Clint.
All right, thanks, Janella, for that report. Stay tuned. Janella will have more as the votes are being tallied and counted up. Right now, nothing to report as far as results are concerned from the University of Guam Fieldhouse. They are still tallying those results, but stay tuned. We'll have more for you after this. Our all-night coverage of the election, and we'll be with you all night checking in with various places. Right now, I'll go live to Janella Carrera, who is standing by at the University of Guam Fieldhouse. Janella will be at the Fieldhouse all night. Janella, can you tell us what's going on over there?
Hafere and good evening, Clint. I'm Janella Carrera. I'm over here at the UOG Fieldhouse, where it looks like everybody's just about done voting. Precinct officials are now closing down their polls. We tried to pull an official earlier, however, they are at crunch mode right now, so it's extremely busy here. They're doing everything they can to get everything finished up so that they can start counting all the votes in. I spoke with one official earlier. She told me that what happens is whichever poll is the soonest to close down their site, that poll will be the first one to be counted in the tabulators here over at UOG. Right now, it doesn't look like any GEC officials have really made their way here yet. I think it's still too early. It's only about 8:35. So I'm guessing after the 9 o'clock hour, that's when we'll see more people coming in, filling in and bringing in the ballot boxes. We also did get a report that in one of the precincts, some polling people were being kicked out. However, we will still continue to look into that. And again, just keep it locked here. We'll keep you updated on the latest developments here at UOG. Thanks, Clint.
All right, thanks, Janella, for that report. Stay tuned. Janella will have more as the votes are being tallied and counted up. Right now, nothing to report. As far as results are concerned from the University of Guam Fieldhouse, they are still tallying those results. But stay tuned. We'll have more for you after this. Good evening and welcome to PNC's Vote 2014, our all-night coverage of the 2014 general election. And we will be live at the University of Guam Fieldhouse, as well as both camps, the Democrats and the Republicans. And speaking of the Republicans, let's check in now with Blake Watson, who is down at the GOP headquarters. Blake, can you tell us what's going on down at the Calvo Tenorio Republican headquarters tonight?
In Guam's favorite sport, politics. I'm coming to you live from deep in the heart of Anigua, the Republican headquarters, otherwise known as the home of the Calvo Tenorio campaign and their camp. And what a crowd it is that's starting to show up here. They're starting to roll in. Slowly but surely, they're making their presence known. I'm joined here by one such supporter, Maggie, and Maggie is here supporting Calvo Tenorio. Maggie, first of all, how did you spend your election day? Did you have a good day?
Yes, I did. Yes, I have. And I enjoy it because I see the spirit that I have for Calvo, for him doing such a great job fixing up the roads, from giving us our tax refunds, and especially for the kids as well, education and so well. So I guess he's going to make it for 4 more years in this election.
Great. And what exactly are you looking forward to? The one thing that you would say if you had to pick one that you're looking forward to the next 4 years, if Calvo wins, of course.
I'm looking at more, I guess, the school and also the roads and fix, and especially people's tax refund that he said he's going to give it to us as soon as we file. He's going to give it to us within a week. And I see how it works when throughout this 2013 tax refund when I got mine and the rest of my family.
All right, thank you so much, Maggie. So tons of Calvo Tenorio supporters out here in Anigua for sure. But we will keep you posted as the polls, of course, closed about an hour ago. We're still waiting on results, so just stick to Pacific News Center for more. Blake Watson coming to you live from Anigua from the Republican headquarters. Back to you.
All right, thanks, Blake. Great job by our Blake Watson down in Anigua. Let's check in now with Janella Carrera, who's standing by at the University of Guam Fieldhouse, where they are tabulating the votes as we speak. Janella, what's going on up there?
Hafaday, Clint. I'm over here at Election Central at the UOG Fieldhouse. It looks like some precincts are already starting to make their way in here. We saw a handful of them carrying their ballot boxes in here. The Guam Election Commission is now preparing to start their meeting at 9 o'clock. Right now, it's still not going on. They're going to be meeting at that desk over there, if you can see behind me. But right now, I have Carlo Branch from the Democratic Party. We're going to talk to him a little bit about how things have been going on all day.
I think things have been very high energy. I think turnout will be relatively well as far as gubernatorial elections are concerned. We do have one challenge right before the polls closed. As usual, when it isn't a holiday, between 6 and 8 p.m., polling sites in Dededo, in Barrigada, in Tamuning, in Inarahan had multiple lines. And we're hoping that everyone got the chance to vote. In fact, I hear that some people may still be in line. And so we're asking just everyone to stay dedicated, stay committed, regardless of the camp you're voting for. Stay in line, make sure your vote counts.
And so what are your predictions for tonight? I know you're a Democrat, of course, but how do you think for the senatorial race in particular?
I think we have a very strong shot at a supermajority.
Really?
Yeah, I'm very confident in a supermajority possibility. 9-6 is very real for us. I think Governor Gutierrez, Senator Respicio, the Democratic leadership has done a very good job, along with Madeline Berdalio, of finding a way to heal old wounds and make politics more about addition than subtraction. I think we've done a better job of adding than our opponents have. And so I think we're in for a good night.
All right. Well, that was Carlo Branch from the Democratic Party. I'm Janella Carrera. Thanks, and back to you, Clint. We'll check back around 9:30.
All right, thank you very much, Janella. Great job by Janella Carrera. She'll be at Election Central at the University of Guam Fieldhouse all night. But let's check in now with Rizal Romanes. I believe she is standing by at the Gutierrez Gumatautau headquarters. Now, the Gutierrez Gumatautau headquarters are in Agana, next to the port of Mocha. While the Cabo Tenorio's headquarters, or GOP Republican headquarters, is actually in Anigua. All right, and we'll check back in with Rizal later on. But again, we'll have Rizal Romanes live over at the Gutierrez Gumatautau headquarters, as well as Blake Watson live at the Republican headquarters, the Cabo Tenorio headquarters, and Janella Carrera live at the University of Guam Fieldhouse, where the ballots are being tabulated. Stay tuned to ABC 7 for all of your election night coverage. Hafa adai and welcome to PNC's Vote 2014, our all-night coverage of the 2014 general election. I'm Clint Rizal. I'll be here in studio all night, and we'll be checking in live all night at both the Republican headquarters, the Democrat headquarters, and up at the University of Guam Fieldhouse. But let's go first now to the Republican headquarters, the Democrat headquarters, where Carl Gutierrez's camp is at, with our Rizal Romanes, who is standing by in Agana at the Democrat headquarters.
And here with me is Derek, first-time voter. Can you tell us your experience?
Well, it's very cool, and it's a new experience, and it's very overwhelming at times, but it's a great experience.
All right, we apologize for those technical difficulties. We're still trying to work out some of the bugs over there at the Gutierrez Gumatautau headquarters, the Democrat headquarters, where Rizal Romanes will be standing by live all night. But let's check in now with Janella Carrera, who's standing by up at the University of Guam Fieldhouse at Election Central. Janella, can you tell us what's going on up there? Have they started counting any ballots yet? What's going on?
Hafa adai, Clint. I'm over here at Election Central at the University of Guam Fieldhouse. The Guam Election Commission is now in the middle of its first meeting tonight. Some of the things that they talked about, one of the first things they talked about was complaints. There was one formal complaint that was filed, one through email, and there, I believe, more are going to be coming in tonight, although they have not received all the complaints yet. I believe they said about 10 days. That's how many days people have, if they have any complaints, 10 days to file those complaints. One of those we've already heard about is locked ballot boxes, and those precincts were Tamuning, Jigo, Santa Rita, and Inarajan. The ballot boxes were inadvertently locked. However, they did take care of the issue. That's what Maria Pangilinan, the GEC executive director, that's what she said. So they went back out to unlock those ballot boxes. The other complaint was over at Agana Heights. It was the room was not open at 7 a.m. It was a few minutes late, and that's because the official who was in charge of opening up that room came in a little late. The formal complaint that was filed, I peeked over and I caught a glimpse of it. I didn't get to read the whole thing, but it dealt with Lieutenant Governor candidate Gary Gumatautau about him being out of district. I'm not sure, what that means. They're not planning to entertain those complaints tonight. I think tonight the focus is counting the ballots. I believe that's something they will probably talk about at another meeting sometime in the future. Again, I'm over here at the UOG Fieldhouse, Election Central. The GEC is currently meeting right now to talk about any issues they need to iron out before they begin counting the ballots. Janella Carrera reporting live at UOG. Back to you, Clint.
All right, and thanks very much. That's PNC's Janella Carrera reporting live from the University of Guam Fieldhouse, where the ballots are being tabulated. And I believe we're going to check in next with Blake Watson, who's at the Republican, the GOP headquarters down in Anigua. Blake Watson, tell us what's going on. Blake.
from PNC Sports, coming to you live from Anigua, the Republican headquarters, otherwise known as the home of the Calvo Tenorio camp. We've just opened up the table, and more supporters are starting to file in for sure. Everybody getting ready in anticipation of the final results. So be sure to stay tuned to PacificNewsCenter.com, our website. You can also check us out at PNC Guam on Twitter, and there we will have as much information as we can and as fast as we get it. So be sure to check us out there. I know we've been going all around the camps, and we're going to continue to do so throughout the night. So thank you so much for having us on. Once again, my name is Blake Watson, coming to you live from Anigua, the Republican headquarters. We're still waiting in anticipation of Governor Calvo and Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio to arrive. Nobody yet, but definitely the crowd is abuzz. The atmosphere, is electric. So we look forward to seeing both candidates and the senatorial candidates as they start to file in as well. So for the time being, that's what we have, and we will continue to keep you posted. So keep us right here and keep your TV locked right here on Pacific News Center. Also check us out on the web or smartphone, whatever you have, PacificNewsCenter.com. From Anigua, my name is Blake Watson with PNC.
Good evening, I'm Clint Rigel. You're watching PNC's Vote 2014, our general election night coverage. And let's check in real quick with Janella Carrera, who's standing by up at the University of Guam Fieldhouse. Janella, can you tell us what's going on at UOG? I believe they are starting to tabulate some ballots. Janella.
Over at the UOG Fieldhouse, it looks like the tabulators are now counting votes. The first set of ballots are now in, and in fact, several of the precincts are here. I believe not all of them are here just yet, but they have begun counting our votes. So with me right now is Arthur Clark. He's with the Republican Party. Arthur, what are your thoughts on how everything's going today?
Well, I know they got off to a little bit of a rough start in the morning with some locked boxes. The election commission convened just before they started counting, and one of the commissioners pointed out the fact that I think it's the first time they've had this issue come up where they've had, I don't know, maybe they've had one or two in the past, but they have four one time. It was kind of odd, so it sounds like there's still some training and preparation that could go into the next time, of course.
And these are 4 villages throughout the entire island. It wasn't like, there was one in Jigo, one in Iraha. And
Santa Rita, Tamuning, yeah, so it was scattered all throughout the island, so. And again, just maybe something they will just lock away for future training.
What about over at the Republican Party? How are things going at the Republican headquarters?
Well, we believe, Governor Calvo's had a very positive message to deliver, not just during the campaign, but, 4 years. I think he's established a pretty good record, moving in the right direction, and I think everybody in general is pretty excited about it. We're starting to hear some early exit poll numbers, and they're looking very promising, so we'll just have to...
Any idea on percentages?
Well, I thought I saw the UOG poll was somewhere around 60-40, so
oh, wow.
Yeah, it could be significant, but it's until the final numbers come out, it's too early to call, obviously.
All right. Well, thanks, Clark. Sure. All right, Janella Carrera reporting live over here at Election Central at UOG. Back to you, Clint.
All right. Thank you very much, Janella. That was PNC's Janella Carrera up at the University of Guam Fieldhouse, and she was talking to the governor's chief policy advisor, Arthur Clark. Thank you very much for coming by.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me here.
Awesome. All right, so Mr. Ariola, tell us, how do you think you guys are faring so far?
Well, this afternoon, pretty much the whole day, we had various teams roving the different precincts, and throughout the islands and the various 19 precincts, villages, we had our hospitality tents up and running from 7 o'clock this morning all the way until the polls closed at 8 o'clock earlier this evening. And what we did along the way was to ensure that we identified our supporters and determined what time and when they voted. And if they had not voted, we would initiate our phone bank, at which point that phone bank would encourage and call back our supporters, our identified supporters, to come out and vote. And so there was a lot going on today. The mood was upbeat for our supporters. The candidates were very excited. They went to every single polling site, and so it was an exciting day for us.
All right. So I understand we'll talk some more about this, but we want to check in now with Rosel Romanes, who is standing by at the Democratic Party headquarters, the Gutierrez Gumatauta headquarters. PNC's Rosel Romanes. Rosel, tell us what's going on over there at the Democrat Party headquarters.
At the Democratic headquarters, as you see behind me, they're still setting up more tents. There's a crowd. And let me tell you, these guys did a really great job for a last-minute venue change. We're joined here by Gary Gumatauta. So tell us, polls closed at 8. It is now 10 o'clock. How are you feeling?
We're excited. I'm tired. You know, it's been 4 months of campaigning.
Right.
It's really a short time when you think about it. It's been very intense. So all day long we've been running around. We started off about 6 o'clock this morning and started moving around to all the precinct sites of the polls all around the island. And we hit all of them. Then we started going back to try to hit them a second time, and then we were just bushed. Took a little break, and now we're here at headquarters and getting ready for the count.
Wow.
But then again, we understand that some people are still voting. Well, maybe not now, but after 8 o'clock people were voting, you know, because even though it closed at 8, they'd already gotten into the line. Okay, and we understand some places as many as 150 people were still waiting. So, a very interesting election.
Okay, but how's the response? Are you confident?
Well, I'm very confident, you know, that, and I don't want to jinx it, but I mean, it's a situation where that I'm just absolutely amazed at the confluence or the alignment of stars that have worked for us. You know, we started out, you know, late in the game, and it's a situation where nobody really took us seriously on the other side. We had some true unity in the party. The first time we've seen this in, at least 3 terms, if not longer. And and they really are getting along. I mean, it's hard. It's like herding cats with this crowd, you know, but we're able to get through it, and they've been a team all the way through. And then we've got a lot of disaffected Republicans that have joined us, and then we've got independents as well. So I've never seen anything like this in Guam. For me, this is very unusual. I've been back here since 1981. I've never seen an election like this.
All right, well, thank you so much for your input, and we'll have more with the Democrat headquarters later on.
Thank you.
All right, and there you have it. That was Rosel Romanes down at the Democrat Party headquarters, and she was talking to, of course, Gary Gumatauta, your opponent. But before we went to Rosel, you were talking a little about how you yourself, the campaign and everything, you guys keep track of your voters.
Sure.
So tell us about that again. How does that work? You guys actually have a list of who your people are, right? Who your voters are, who have promised to vote for Cabo Tenorio, and then you guys call them and make sure they voted today?
That's our infamous quota report. Our voter acquisition manager, Ms. Rose Ramsey, our DCOS, Deputy Chief of Staff of the office, runs our ground game. She runs our village organization. And what she's done is she's got our ground game, our troops at the village level, identifying supporters for Cabo Tenorio. We put them on a list. And throughout the day, as our poll watchers are watching the voters come in, when you announce your name as you're voting, Clinton Rigel voting from the village of Tamuning, we would identify that you voted and that you're a supporter of ours. So all that data gets transported from the village location to our war room at headquarters, at which point is then transmitted to a select few using a mobile app. And so we were able to watch the turnout, watch percentages, watch how well our quota was moving. And if we felt that at a certain point in time of the day, let's say we had only 50% turnout of our quota, we immediately got on our phone banking program and called people to make sure they come out to vote.
Wow.
And so yeah, it's well-rounded, fairly scientific.
So you guys are using some modern technology these days, utilizing an actual phone app.
Right, yeah, a mobile app, which is developed by one of our supporters in conjunction with how Rose Ramsey wanted to get it to be monitored and measured. So that kept all the executive management informed on an hourly basis as to where we stood on a per village basis.
Interesting. Can you share with us on your app what was some of that information?
One of the things that I saw, or one of my cabinet members reported, in the village of Santa Rita as an example, we had X number of people vote in the village of Santa Rita, and that quota number over the total amount of those who voted that day was 62%.
62% of registered voters
in
Santa Rita.
All the ballots cast in Santa Rita.
Okay.
So our quota already exceeded the 50% plus 1. So we know we're going to do very well in the village of Santa Rita.
Okay.
Of course, all the villages have different dynamics. Santa Rita, a southern village that we've done well historically, and we expect to do again well this particular election.
Now, I saw some press releases coming out from the campaign saying that you guys felt you were doing good in some of the other southern villages, like Talafofo, Inarahan, I believe. Can you tell us about that?
Traditionally, the last couple of elections, those southern, we haven't really fared well. Cabo Tenorio has not really fared well, particularly in the 2010 election. Gutierrez,
Why do you think that is?
Well, in Arahan, traditionally a Democrat stronghold. But if you look back at the primary of 2014, we did a lot better, and we actually outpolled Carl Gutierrez in the primary, just general numbers. But of course, the general election, we'll see how that pans out. But the southern villages have been traditionally a Democrat stronghold. But we think this general election, we're going to make headway into that, make some deep cuts
those
into the
southern Democrat strongholds.
Correct.
In Iran and Talavovo too?
Talavovo, we lost by 70-some votes in the primary, on whole numbers. We took that as a loss, and so we had to try to beef up our infrastructure there and our efforts. That's a southern location. We're very strong in the central part of Guam. Oro Chalampago, Sinahanya, Jotnya in some cases, Barragata, MTM, Tamuni. Very strong Republican. Governor Calvo's fared very well in those central villages. And of course, you have, Derido, right, the hidden pound gorilla in the room, and then you have Jigo. We think we're going to do very, very well in Jigo, the fastest growing village, because, of course, the incumbent mayor there, Rudy Montanari, is a strong supporter of ours.
As well as the former mayor, who was a Democrat, too.
Right,
Bob
who ran
Zama's come out in support.
The Gutierrez Ugin campaign is now strongly in our hold. I saw him in Jigo about an hour and a half ago. And they're very excited as to the turnout up there and what our quota looks like relative to all the votes cast.
So how do you think you guys will do in Derido? You spoke about it as the 800-pound gorilla in the room.
That's
is that a hard village to gauge, Derido?
For us, it is because it's very dynamic, right?
I was going to say, there's quite a mix, right?
Yeah, you've got a great section of Chamorros, Filipinos, FAS citizens, and so it's hard to really to
gauge
compute the dynamics, right?
Wow.
But based on what our quota shows, we're very confident on how we're going to do in Derido. In the primary overall, or in the last general election, they beat us by 500 or 600 votes like that. Okay. And so we think we're going to make that up in this round.
Any other Democrat strongholds you guys believe you're making inroads into in the central area? You mentioned the South. In the central area, those villages you mentioned, are those typically Republican villages? The ones you mentioned were you guys really strong? You said Oro Chalampago and some Barragata.
Yeah, Sinahanya OCP have been known to be Democrat, but we've done well there. Governor Calvo's done very, very well there. Of course, Agana Heights, Carl Gutierrez's hometown.
How do you guys think he did there?
That's gonna be close, I think, just because it is his hometown. We have to respect that. We've worked very hard in there. Of course, we've got the McDonald family, a big group of supporters in the village of Agana Heights. So we'll see, but we feel pretty confident. In certain areas, if we can break even, we'll be fine because we expect to increase our spread in other villages. So we'll see how that goes.
Interesting. Now let's talk a little bit about, I understand you guys sound very well organized. I mean, you're using mobile apps to track voters.
Sure.
You have your own numbers and everything. Now, this is pretty much an unprecedented gubernatorial race in the recent years, especially, as far as not having a challenger emerge right away. I mean, for most of the time, there was the question was, who are the Democrats going to put up to run against Calvo Tenorio? And it wasn't until late in the game that former Governor Carl Gutierrez actually stood up and announced that he would be running against Calvo Tenorio. Right. How do you think that factors into this election with them coming in late in the game? Do you think that's a huge major part of the election?
Absolutely. When Governor Calvo was determined to run in 2010, we started working on the program in 2009, early 2009, a full 24 months before he took office in 2011, or expected to take office in 2011. The Democratic Party finally, however they came about, we heard that Frank Ugin was going to run, and he had his running mate. He was ready to go. Then Rory Respicia was going to run, and he was ready to go. Judy Wampat was ready to go, and then they all kind of fell aside for whatever reason, and from the ashes comes Carl Gutierrez, and there's no way. It's difficult to run a gubernatorial campaign in 4 months. I mean, people get married; they plan weddings, a year in advance. I'm serious; they plan weddings a year in advance.
That's true. Yeah.
And you're gonna run a gubernatorial campaign in 4 months. You got to first of all, you got to marry your partner. You've got to understand him closely. And fortunately, Governor Calvo and Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio have a very good relationship. And you marry those two clans together. Then you got to get your brain trust. Then you got to get your resources. You got to get your money. You got to raise your funds. You've got to get your marketing. You've got to get your debate prep, your issues committees together. You got to get your ground game. To do that in 4 months, that's a monumental task. It's a lot. And if you're missing any one of those components, or you're lacking in one of those components, particularly the money side of the house, if you're having a tough time raising money, which we understand that they had a tough time raising money, that's an indication for a lot of things. First, you don't have the resource to invest in mobile apps or to invest in paraphernalia and the like. It's also an indication of the support you're going to get from the general public. If you can't raise money, then that tells you people don't want to throw good money at a business that's not going to do well for them in their eyes. And so we looked at that. 4 months. Go back to your question. That's a monumental task. Now, looking at it the other way, whatever numbers that the Gutierrez-Gumatautau camp come up with, we have to look at that, because that's going to be a group of people who, A, we didn't really reach out, we didn't really capture, or B, they didn't understand our message. So we have to look at that and find out why or why not. And as a result, God willing, if we're lucky and we get reelected into a second term, we're going to find out why those people didn't believe in us, and we want to address that. Because that would be our duty as public servants.
Okay. All right. So speaking of raising money, you spoke about raising money. Now, obviously, it's been reported in the GEC and everything that the Calvo Tornillo campaign was able to spend and raise and spend about, I think, what was it, 1.3 million, the last report?
Something like that, yeah.
And then to, what was it, like under 200,000 or something for the Gutierrez campaign? Right, for the Gutierrez campaign. Yeah. How much of a role does that play? I mean, were you guys surprised that they weren't able to come up with more money than that?
Well, we were surprised. For us, our challenges are more internal. We have a good, a solid base of support, both from the business community and the private community and the residential sector, and because we have a wide range of different levels of fundraisers, and they were all very well attended, and people wanted to give to us because they felt that Governor Calvo and Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio had a very good administration, and they really want to continue really moving, to use our slogan, in that right direction. And so for us, it was a lot easier than in 2010, I can tell you that. In 2010, it was difficult to raise money. But being the incumbent, it's a little bit easier. Now, as far as the Democrats are concerned, they have their, I was surprised because I thought they would have, certain people waiting in the wings to help them. But $200,000, that's a stretch. And if you looked at their advertising program, that's one of the measures that I look at. We were able to put full color, 4-color center spread, and they had a 4x10 on the last day and black and white. So
a majority of their advertising campaign this time was all on social media. That's what I've seen, mostly social media, which is obviously a lot cheaper. But I just read some articles that talking about social media in the U.S. mainland is playing a much bigger role too in campaigning in the elections that they're having in the mainland right now, the elections for Congress. How much of a role do you think social media plays now here on Guam, and how much did you guys use it?
It's playing a great role, a humongous role. Facebook, as an example, that's like it's like communities within communities.
Yeah. Does that change the game up a bit? I mean, if it wasn't for social media, how else would Gutierrez-Gumatautau get their message out with such a limited amount of money to advertise? You said we didn't see a lot of ads for them. You just got to drive around. There's not a lot of signs compared to the number of signs that Calvo Tenorio has. And that's because they don't have the money for it. So without social media, how would they?
There's no question. When you have the limited financial resources, you have to get really creative and really smart. And I think the Gutierrez camp did an excellent job, I think, of utilizing social media. I mean, we watched them and watched them move, and all of a sudden they were moving really. It was like exponential growth within the social media group. And so we saw that, and we said, okay, we need to look at that and stay on top of it. So, and we were on it, on a daily basis. So if they made a move here, we would identify what that was, and we would try to outskirt them.
Try to maneuver it.
Outmaneuver it. Yeah. But once we got into a rhythm and a groove, now it's a matter. We had the distribution. Now we have to fill it with good, solid content, and we were able to. Again, we had the resources. We were able to fill that distribution with the sort of content that Governor Calvo was looking for.
Fascinating. I think social media is really
It's the
changing the
greatest,
game a
yeah,
lot.
no question.
It's a whole new area to contend with. No longer the old school where it's just knocking on doors or just putting up signs. A lot can be accomplished with social media, as we saw with the Gutierrez Gumatato campaign. You know, even just being able to put up whatever number of votes they put up in the primary, having spent next to nothing going into the primary, they still got voters out. And of course, that's due to knocking on doors, but it's also, I believe, it has to be due in a large part to the social media campaign. Right?
I think that's where the bulk of their outreach was on the social media side of the house.
All right. Let's hear that we have Blake Watson standing by over at the Republican headquarters. He's at your camp, so let's check in with Blake. Blake, tell us what's going on.
Hey, half a day, Clint, half a day, Frank. I am Blake Watson here coming to you live from Anigua, the Calvo Tenorio headquarters at the Republican headquarters. And I've got Jay Rojas here with me. Now, Jay, so you're here on Island. Just explain a little bit about how your day has been and how the election's been so far for you since you're here.
I'll tell you what, there's nothing like actually being home on Guam for a political season. I mean, just the spirit that we had as I was driving around from village to village, it's been great. Just to hear how everyone's actually out there to support Calvo Tenorio and rally behind the governor, lieutenant governor for the next 4 years.
You know, there's not really any other place that does elections like Guam. You know, you have some experience in the States and, you know, seeing elections there. How would you compare the two?
You know, a few months ago, D.C. actually had a really hotly contested mayoral race. It was actually kind of funny for me to come out of the metro station and actually see that one candidate holding one little sign up. But I'll tell you what, I don't think anybody does it like we do. You know, Jigo roasted 3 pigs in our hospitality tent today. Dedido was out there waving and shouting in spirit. It was actually just a wonderful experience. All the way down south, you know, Umatic, Agate, Maritza, PD and Asin and Maina. Everyone just had that spirit to make sure that Governor Calvo and Lieutenant Governor Ray Tenorio are there for another 4 years.
For sure, and he speaks true because the air definitely is electric here in Anigua. This is Blake Watson coming to you live from Calvo Tenorio headquarters here down in Anigua. Back to you, Clint.
All right, thanks very much. That was our Blake Watson down at the GOP headquarters, and we got a lot of things, a lot of moving parts we're working on here. So right now, we'll check in with some of our other live people. We've got Janela Carrera, who's up at the University of Guam Fieldhouse. We'll check in her with a little bit later on, as well as Rosario Manes, who's at the Gutierrez Gumatato headquarters. We'll be checking with her a little later on, and that was just Blake Watson, of course, at the GOP headquarters. And here I have with me Governor Eddie Calvo's Chief of Staff, Mr. Franklin Arreola. And we were just talking a little bit about social media, the new thing that's happening. But let's switch gears here and let's talk a little bit about some other stuff, some more traditional stuff. Sure. Now, of course, on Guam, there's a lot of talk about there's always rifts in parties, or there tend to be rifts between the parties, you know. Sure. There's been talk about the Republican Party having a rift in it. With the Camacho side. And now that's evidenced by Joanne Camacho, the former First Lady, the wife of former Governor Felix Camacho, actually came out and endorsed former Governor Carl Gutierrez. So what do you think about that? Do you think there is a major rift in the Republican Party, and will that play any factor in this election?
I would say I don't think that it will play a major, I don't think a major deal within the party. I think this is, in my opinion, this is a temporary thing, only because it was personal to them, the Camacho clan. The issue with Mary Torres to the port, I think that was personal to them, and I think they decided, you know, Governor Calvo didn't take care of, you know, my sister, or, you know, and we want to move on. I don't think that's going to last. That won't stay that long. I think they're good Republicans, and I think that eventually they'll come back to the fold, so to speak. How we look at it, gosh, we made overtures to Mary. It's much better to work together than to not. Essentially, she declined on that proposition, and she decided to take the movement on her own. And I know that she was involved actively in the Democratic events, and that's fine. It's part of the American system. But our team, the Republican Party, is strong. We just have some different and some new faces, and a lot of them. And so we have the traditional Republicans who are still with us, and we have some new Republicans that are with us. And so we're building that foundation, and we're keeping that foundation intact.
Do you think that'll have a negative effect on this year's campaign, or do you think you guys can overcome losing those Republicans by gaining these, as you said, new Republicans, or
Yeah, I'll tell
gaining
you.
Democrats?
I'll tell you. We may have lost the Camacho clan, but some of the Gumatautas, sure. But we've also kept a lot of the Gumatautas, and we've also kept a lot of the Camachos in the Republican. They stayed home with us. In addition to that, we also brought in a lot of these traditional, huge Democrat families. Right, the Guerrero family from Jigo, Bob Lizama and his group, the Sanchez family from Yamatic. I mean, there's a bunch who came over to us and stayed with us. And
who's the one with that sign in the Chowut Bridge area?
Oh,
it's like a famous sign.
Yeah. Well, that's
there.
another group that we scooped there too, right? As soon as we got the okay to put our signs up there.
Who owns that land there?
God, you know what? I forget the name of the gentleman, and I apologize.
Okay.
But as soon as we were able to get up there, Governor Cabo went up to meet with him because at the end of the day, we're all citizens of Guam, and when they watched Governor Cabo manage his administration, they saw what he was doing, they liked the way he was doing it, they loved the message he was communicating. They just said, you know what? Hey, I'm a loyal Democrat. But you know what, Governor Calvo, you're doing a good job, and we want to run with you. And of course, with us, open arms. I think a little bit of that kind of irritated some of the stalwart Republicans. But I think at the end of the day, they also realize that Governor Calvo represents everybody, and it's important that we all come to the table together. Up in Jigo, I was at Rudy Montanani, Bob Lizama, side by side, working the phone lines, working the waving lines, working the food lines. And that's the way Governor Cobb wants to see it. Everyone working together. It's not always perfect. It's not always smooth. We've had our bumps along the way, but we're able to manage that as best we could. And I think we did a great job with it.
Now, on the other hand, on the flip side, there's a lot of talk about reconciliation in the Democratic Party. At least that's what the Democratic Party was saying and touting, particularly with Berdallo and Underwood factions. And we did see a lot of footage of course, Narissa Underwood. Congressman Underwood's wife is running for senator.
Yes.
So she was turning out at the Democratic rallies and the Gutierrez rallies and supporting Gutierrez.
Yeah.
Robert Underwood was seen at those rallies as well, although I understand he can't officially endorse because of his position at EOG, but he was there supporting his wife, and of course there are the rallies. And Berdallo factions, of course, their co-chair of their campaign, I believe, Joaquin Perez. Who actually will be joining us shortly, I believe. As soon as you get off, Ken will be joining us.
You're going to kick me out and bring in my uncle? That's great. I'm teasing.
You know what it is he did not want to go up against you because of the family ties. He didn't want to have any bad blood between the two of you.
There's no bad blood, man.
So, when you get off, we'll bring him on. So we'll have the rest of the half hour.
Sure.
Okay, so.
Reconciliation, you mentioned that. Gosh, I'll tell you, the Democrats, to their credit, communicated unity. Right, and I think that's important they did that. But I've been speaking to a lot of higher ups in the Democratic Party, and it's not. Don't believe everything you hear. Clearly, there are some problems. There's some problems endemic in that party, and they've got a lot of work to do. They have a lot of work to do. And I think they know that. I think there's a couple of younger leaders who really want to step up and take the challenge to bring the party, to truly unify the party, because there's still some backbiting in there, and you hear it. You hear it. Much like people talk about what the Camachos are doing and Joanne and whatnot. We hear the same thing from the other camp, and that we'll take our chances. I think we've set a solid foundation. Governor Calvo is a great leader, and he knows how to bring people together.
Now, you are actually from a Democrat family. Is most of your family Democrats?
You always have to remind me about that?
It's just,
everyone always says,
right? We just brought it up. Right?
Yeah. Well, yes, of course, my parents were both sitting senators. My father was a speaker representing the Democratic Party. I guess I've strayed away, so to speak, or I've become real, right? I am a Republican in the philosophical way, and I'm proud of it. I mean, it is what it is.
Sorry, I don't mean to start any family fights.
No, not at all.
Everyone knows it already, right? Everyone kind of knows already, all right?
I get so much grief from the Republicans, though.
For being from a
I'm a registered Republican.
Okay, now let's switch gears one more time real quick. Legislative race. How do you think you guys are going to fare in the legislative race? I know there's some polls that came out that are saying it could be a supermajority for the Democrats. Do you think that's true?
That's an exit poll that you're talking about, and exit polls are fairly accurate, right? And so we are concerned about that. We've done a poll this last week where we showed an 8-7 Republican majority, so we'll see how that goes. I understand that UOG poll was taken between 7 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, and so we will look at what sort of demographics went through that exercise. But we also believe that our core support, our base support, the private sector, the GovGov worker, they were at work when they did this poll, and now they come. Our concern really is, did they get to the polls before it closed at 8 o'clock? That was key. So I think you'll see a bump to offset that. I think it's a 10-5 number that they were talking about. Our polling was showing 8-7 in favor of the Republicans.
All right. Fascinating stuff. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Arreola. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Clint.
And we will go to a break real quick, and we'll be back. Actually, we'll check in with Roselle Romanes. She's standing by now, live. Roselle, tell us what's going on over at the Gutierrez Gumatauto headquarters.
Here at the Democratic headquarters, we're joined by Gutierrez Gumatauto campaign manager, Jeff Marchessault. Jeff, can you tell us about the setup and the plan here tonight?
As I was saying, this setup is a little more humble than the kind of setup we're used to doing for a rally, or sometimes even some of the fancier pocket meetings or regional pocket meetings that we hold. It gets pretty detailed. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. We just had our Southern Sunshine Island-wide rally over the weekend. We had at least 1,500 people coming and going. Some people estimated about 3,000, and we had 3 bands and lots of stage lighting and everything. Tonight we're just here to watch election results when they start coming in, and so we have a projector screen up there, and people are playing their own music. We're waiting for the official stage music to come, but that's the whole purpose of being here. We figured that it was probably a little bit bigger a function than we wanted to hold over at the governor's residence, because he does like to hold functions there. But still, we wanted to keep it really simple and just focus on the results. So we're actually watching you guys inside of campaign headquarters, and here,
as you can hear,
out, right?
All right, and that was Roselle Romanes over at the Gutierrez Gumatauto headquarters. Thank you very much, Roselle, for that live report. And let's go now and check in with something that was put together by some of our radio personalities. And it's about voting on this election.
This election day, get real-time results with News Now's live coverage on ABC 7. It all starts at 8 with Clint Rigel manning Election Central from the Pacific News Center. Janela Carrera, live with a vote count from the UOG Fieldhouse. Blake Watson gives you the Republican reaction, and Roselle Romanes follows the action as it happens with Democrats. Better yet, get up-to-the-minute updates all night long from PacificNewsCenter.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter too. News reinvented for real time. News Now.
All right, and welcome back to PNC's Vote 2014, our election night coverage. And I am joined in studio by 2 very staunch Democrats. Mr. Joaquin Perez, who is the chairman of the Gutierrez Gumatauto campaign, and former Democrat Senator Francis Santos. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us tonight. All right. And so earlier we had Frank Arreola by himself representing the Republicans. And so now we're going to give a chance for the Democrats to represent and talk about how they think their party is faring. Let's start first with you, Ken, as the party chair. How is the Gutierrez Gumatauto campaign doing? Will you guys win?
Well, I feel really good. I think we've done it. I think in the morning, Carl Gutierrez and Gary Gumatauto will be governor and lieutenant governor. I feel really good with what I saw there, with the way this campaign has developed, with the way the people came out. And we did it from bare bones budget. So I feel really good.
Now, I spoke with Frank Arreola earlier, and he spoke about how, and we were kind of talking about this off camera before we got on. They actually had a mobile app. They were tracking stuff, but I know there's old school ways of tracking stuff. I'm sure you guys were tracking your supporters too, to see if you got your votes out, if they showed up to the polls, and if they actually voted. So did you guys, were you able to track it, and did you guys get your vote out?
Well, we had we had people in the precincts, the poll watchers, and we had our way of keeping track of everybody. But even before then, we have what they call Project Victory, where we keep people pick up names. They go out there and pick up names of people who pledge their support to us, and we keep track of that thing. If we don't see that they came out and vote, we call them up, and if they don't have transportation, we'll send the van, we'll send the bus. We had three vans out there working today, but we look for our voters, and we bring them to the polls if necessary.
Okay. All right, Francis, what is your take on this election?
Well, you know, I mean, obviously, I'm a Gutierrez Gumatauta supporter, and we also feel very good. At least I was out there seeing the flow. I was communicating with Ken toward the evening when my former partner and I, Clay Moylan, got together and we ran out to the polls, and we headed into Dedido, and our first stop was Weddingale, and boy, the gauntlet that was there was pretty, you know, another impressive sight to see is how our voters get excited out here. And it was raining, but they were still out there, and then we headed further north, and then we got stuck in a gridlock at Maria Ulloa. We were not able to make the right turn to go down to Maria Ulloa, and this was, God, we must have stayed in traffic for 10 minutes. I was, you know, communicating with Ken. I said, hey, you guys got to figure out a way to get this traffic moving, otherwise voters are not going to be able to get to the polling site. So then we then proceeded to the next polling site for Dedido, and that was Liguan, the terrace site, and actually that was able to move through, and we were able to see, you know, some of the voters getting in there, and all the at least those 3 polling sites were packed.
Wow.
And hopefully, the voters were able to get there before the 8 o'clock closing time.
Now, I spoke with Frank Ariola earlier a little bit about what his thoughts were on the fact that the Gutierrez Gumatauta campaign started so late in the game. You know, it was for a while no one knew if there was going to be a Democrat candidate for governor until Gutierrez finally agreed to do so. Do you think that was, how do you think that played in this campaign for you guys? Ken,
you first.
Start with you since you're the campaign chair. Was it tough starting so late?
It was. It was tough getting the people out, getting the people to come and join us. But we always knew that there was a supporter out. Our supporters were out there, particularly Carl's supporters. Carl Gutierrez wakes up at 5 o'clock in the morning. He can call out 5,000 votes easily.
Wow.
No, I'm serious.
In his pajamas.
Yeah, and Ricky Bardallo was the same way. But we had that core group that we already knew were staunch Carl supporters, and then what we had to do was try to activate and bring in the Underwood supporters, the Bardallo supporters, and so that we could reunite the party, if you will. If and when the Democratic Party is united, they cannot lose. It's just a numbers game.
And that's because there's more registered Democrats than there are registered Republicans on Guam, correct?
That's right.
Do you know what how much more is it approximately? I don't need exact numbers, but
I don't know, but I can I can show you the listing that we have for the Democrats. There's a lot of Republicans on that thing, and you know we can call on these people. There are Democrats working for Cabo Tenorio administration, and you know.
Won't they vote for Cabo Tenorio?
They'll vote for Cabo Tenorio, but the reason why they went to Cabo Tenorio wasn't because there was a change of philosophy. They just didn't like Carl Gutierrez.
I see.
And so it's a game of personalities, which I think is very, very sad for the state of politics, because you throw ideology out the window with that. You know, and I don't know. I've been a Democrat all my life, and people know that Carl and I don't always see eye to eye. But I am a Democrat, and I will support whoever the Democrats put up. We just have to figure out a way how to bridge the differences that we have. But that also leads to one thing. If 2 people agree all of the time, then one of them is not necessary. And that's the beauty of the Democratic Party. We can disagree, but we can still get together and be united. Okay. And that's what happened here.
Do you think you guys truly are united with the Bardallo-crats, so to speak, and the Underwood-crats?
Well, I'll tell you what, Madeline Bardallo got up and endorsed Carl Gutierrez several times, and and nobody ever thought that would ever be possible. You know, I accepted this position, and nobody ever thought that was possible.
point?
It's amazing if you go out there and you see the number of Ricky people, and let's separate that Ricky people with Madeline people, and the number of Underwood people. It was amazing. I mean, we did it in 3 months. You know, we had Carl Gutierrez announced 7 days before the deadline.
Right. Yeah.
And we were able to pull it together on a shoestring budget.
Okay. And Francis,
Well,
what do
one
you
thing
think?
you gotta remember. I mean, my family, my dad actually, we've been in politics a long time, but Carl Gutierrez is the, bar none, maybe the consummate politician as far as mobilizing people to get to, to the polls. He's always running. He's always thinking of running. I mean, make no mistake, he's been in every possible Democrat race since I can remember, being a little boy being raised. So Carl, from the start, and for me, it's Uncle Carl, he's going to be running. He's going to be a voice in the party. He's going to be there. And it was a question, and early on, when Ken and I were, early part of the year, when we trying to put something together, we say, well, what's going to happen? Because Carl's in the equation. I said, Carl's always going to be in the equation. We just figured out, is he going to be part of the equation, or do we again run a separate team against Carl who Carl picks up? I think this time around, we couldn't get the other Democrats to run, and Carl was there, and he was able to get a running mate, and we're here today. And I think that can speak to the type of politician that he is, to be able to still get that support and bring us all together. I mean, I'm a victim, if you want, or whatever, of the split in our party. And there's, like we said, there's the Carl supporters, or the Ricky supporters, the Berdalio, and then there were those of us that just kind of sat off on the wing. I mean, we were the young ones that came in, and we just got kind of disenfranchised by what we felt was the old guard versus our side. And we needed that to kind of come back to us and say, hey, in order to win, we got to work together. And we've seen that before when Madeline and Carl joined forces, and were able to pull that off. So, I mean, that's a true testament of what can happen if the Democrats unite and say, we want this back to better our island.
There's still some talk of that today, old guard versus new guard. Who do you think the new people will be emerging from the Democrat Party to run for governor in the future?
The one that always comes to mind, and it's probably most evident, is Senator Frank Uggan. There's obviously all the other, candidates. You're going to see Senator Rodriguez. I'm not sure about my good friends Tom Atta, Speaker Wampad, my dear brother BJ. I'm not sure if they have they still want to jump. It's a totally different race, Clint. Running for senator, you're one of 15. Running for governor, it's mano a mano, man on man. It's a very different race. I experienced that, of course, running with Kaleo, but just putting your name up and stepping up and saying, it's a whole different type of a race. And, I applaud anyone that wants to do that, because it takes a different type of, a whole different outlook in your life to step up and want to say you want to go for the big one.
All right. Now, let's talk a little bit about social media. I spoke with Frank Ariola about that earlier. Social media has been a really big part of the Gutierrez Gumatautau campaign. I think a lot of that is due to the fact, of course, Gutierrez Gumatautau campaign did not have a whole lot of funding. But let's hold on that note for right now. We'll get back to that, and we'll talk about social media. We're going to check in now with Janela Carrera, who's standing by at the University of Guam Field House, where the ballots are being tabulated. Janela, can you tell us what's going on up at UOG at Election Central?
Hafaday, good evening, Clint. I'm over here at the UOG Fieldhouse, and we have some preliminary results. Now, right now, there's about only 10 precincts that have been counted out of the 58, and so let me begin now with the governor and lieutenant governor race. So far, we have the Calvo Tenorio team coming out on top with 3,999 votes. The Gutierrez Gumatautau team right now has 2,053 votes, and the percentage difference in that, it looks like so far out of the 10 precincts that were counted, 65% Calvo Tenorio and 33% Gutierrez Gumatautau. Now, moving on to the legislative race, The top vote getter right now is Frank Uggan Jr. He usually is a top vote getter. He has 4,023 votes. We have Tony Ada next, 3,823 votes. We have Dennis Rodriguez at 3,418 votes. Tom Ada with 3,308 votes. Tommy Morrison, 3,300. Jim Espaldon, 3,172. Frank Blas Jr. at 3,055. Mary Torres Camacho at 2,996. Tina Munoz Barnes has 2,973 votes. Michael St. Nicholas, 2,895 votes. BJ Cruz with 2,872 votes. We have Judy Wanpat, and she's at 2,867 votes. Brant McCready, 2,766 votes. And we have Chris Duenas at 2,668 votes. And number 15, and again, this is preliminary, we have Will Castro at 2,633 votes. And over at the congressional race, we have Madeline Bordallo, our top vote getter. She has 3,449 votes, and Margaret Metcalf, 2,632 votes. And again, this is just 10 precincts. It's precinct 16, 12A, 10A, 11, 16D, 15C, 10, 10B, 11B, and 12. And again, Maria Pangolina, the GAC executive director, told us that there are still about 3 precincts that have not made their way up here. Those precincts are primarily in the south. She wasn't sure on which exact 3. Now, in terms of the medical marijuana votes, I know a lot of people are wondering about that. That's on the second page, so give me a second. For the referendum, yes votes is 3,494, no votes 2,522, and that percentage difference is about 58% in favor of it, 41% not in favor of it. But again, this is just preliminary results. This is only 10 precincts that have been counted. There are a total of 58 precincts, and that's our results so far, Clint. And as they come along, we'll keep letting you guys know what the results are tonight here at Election Central at EOG. Back to you, Clint.
Awesome, Janela. Thank you very much for the very latest in election result numbers. Janela Carrera at the University of Guam Fieldhouse. All right, and I am joined in studio, of course, with Mr. Kin Perez and Mr. Francis Santos. What do you guys think of some of the numbers we've heard so far coming from EOG Fieldhouse?
Yeah, I mean, I caught the, I wasn't sure on the percentages.
Some of it, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's the trend that if it was 12, I believe that's Sinahanya. That's 2 precincts in Sinahanya that he said 12. Actually, it's only 2 precincts in Sinahanya. When those are done, so 10 of 38, still early. Yeah.
Ken, what are your thoughts? So right now, according to the numbers, Gutierrez is behind Calvo, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, early on, it's one of the things I really like to see is which precincts, because when you lump it all together, you have, even Franklin was saying that you have strong Republican precincts, you have strong Democratic precincts. And, you know, Dedadu is always going to be the kicker on this one. Yeah. And I don't think there's any precincts from Dedadu there.
At 16, yeah, those are not the...
I spoke about Dedadu with Frank a little bit and how well he thought they might do. And Frank was saying that Dedadu is sort of a tough nut to crack. It's hard to tell, hard to sort of pin your finger on the demographics of Dedadu, sort of the dynamics of Dedadu with its mix of people. So he said he wasn't too sure how they would fare there. How do you guys think your team will do in Dedadu?
I think Carl's always done good in Dedadu. And Franklin is right. It's hard to pin it down because there's such a different mix of people. But, you know, the thing to remember about Dedadu is you're looking at 10,000 votes. Yeah. That's 20% of the voting public. I mean, we used to say, and we ran by a little bit by this philosophy, 40% of the vote belongs to Calvo, 40% belongs to Gutierrez. The 20% is the one that's going to determine it. And 20% of the votes is in Dedadu. So, you know, saying that that's a tough nut to crack, it is. And I think we did awfully good in Dedadu. Or we're going to do awfully good in Dedadu.
If you look at the demographics, I mean, one of the key things that we were always discussing was that who will win the Filipino vote? And of course, that's where the highest densely populated area of the Filipinos are. So that key vote will probably, you see that. I mean, just passing by those, you know, those precincts, those 3 precincts in the late, you know, hopefully the private sector voters did get out during that period to take that vote. That is always key. I mean, when those votes start to come in, you can pretty much tell and dictate what's going to happen in the election.
All right. Now, before we went to Janela to check in with the results, we were starting to talk a little bit about social media and the role that's played in this campaign. This campaign not having as much money as your opponents, the Cabo Tornado campaign. So was a lot more focus put into social media?